I got a great start for this video. Check this out. Yeah, that's the way to start a video right there. For those of you who saw that same animation in the promo I put up for this video earlier and asked about the music I used in the background in the promo, it is George Shearing. The name of the song is Morse Mode, and it's from a record called Shearing Today from 1968. And the reason why you can't find it on Shazam is because it has never been issued on CD, and it's never been entered into SoundScan. I think Capitol has deleted it from their catalog, so it is just simply not available. But I do have a copy because it has sentimental value from years and years ago, and every time I use that little piece of music, people ask about it. This video is going to be really cool. It's probably going to be kind of a long one, so go ahead and get yourself a beverage, pop yourself some popcorn, throw grandma and the kids in the basement, make sure they're locked up good and tight so they won't bug you. What we're going to do is look at the tools that I use in the terminal every day to maintain my Linux computers. I've done videos like this in the past, but you know how it is. As your journey goes on with Linux, you come across new things, and I've actually written several tools that I use myself. So what I thought we'd do this time around is we would talk about commands in groups pertaining to what they do. And we're going to start out with simple commands for manipulating text. And these are things I use all the time. And then we're going to get into some more interesting sysadmin kind of things. But I always like to start simple and work my way up to complicated. And then as we roll along here, I'm going to show you how I took a bunch of simple commands and put them together so I could do complicated things with a very simple single command. And that'll make sense as we roll along. Let's get started. So the first one that I want to show you is a command called cat. And this is an old command. It goes back to the early days of Unix, and cat is short for concatenate, which means to put things together. Cat is really simple. If I just type it and press enter, and then I type in some text, and I hit enter, puts it right back on the screen. Then it goes back and waits for me to type more stuff in. Doesn't matter what I put in here, it's going to do this. It'll do this until it goes crazy, or you go crazy doing it. So let me get out of this by pressing Control C, and we'll talk a little bit about what it's doing there. Well, all cat does is take input from somewhere and send it somewhere else as output. And in Unix, and Linux is a Unix work-alike, keep in mind, the philosophy is everything is a file. I mean, everything is a file. Your keyboard is a file. Your screen is a file. They're device files, virtual files, but they are files. Someplace to send data to. So cat is just going by the default directive for where the data comes from and where it goes. So when you log into your terminal and bash is up and running, the default way the data goes is from the keyboard to the screen. Cat's just kind of jumping in the middle there and giving you some options as to what you want to do with it. So how can we make this useful? Well, cat can be used as a file reader, and it just basically spits whatever is in a text file out on the screen. So if we do that, it just shows what's in the fstab file on this particular computer. That's nice for short files, but it kind of sucks for long files. But it'll also do some other interesting things with that. And let's move on to the next thing I want to show you, and then we're going to kind of come back to things that you can do with text files with cat. It'll make perfect sense. So let's clear the screen. I'm using Control L. You can also just type in the word clear. Used to do that a lot in old videos because when I was taught, they said that Control L doesn't work in every terminal, which is kind of not true with Linux. It seems to work on every one, but if you run across one where it doesn't, just type in clear, like you're on an old Unix system or you're doing BusyBox or something like that. I have no idea. So anyway, let's create some files with cat. So if I tell cat to direct its output into a file with the little, I guess, is that greater than or less than? I always get those confused. Anyway, it's the arrow and the alligator's jaws point toward cat because we're taking data from that and sending it into a file which we will call file 1. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and make a directory to do this in. Just be neater to do it this way. We'll call it stuff. Okay, we'll jump in there. Jump into stuff. All right, now we're in stuff. Now we go back up and, okay, didn't remember that, so we'll do cat redirect into a file. We'll call it file1.txt. Now remember, the .txt is not necessary in Linux, but we're doing that so we know what we're looking at. We could just leave it as file1 if we wanted to. Linux knows what's in a file, whether it has an extension or not. So if I do that, look what we got. We got our little blinking cursor again, and I can type in this is line 1. Enter. Then Control D tells cat we're done. And if we look at what's in this directory, we now have a file called file1.txt. So let's do that one more time, but this time around let's do file2. File2.txt. Same deal. And I'm going to put in here, this is line 2. Enter, Control D, done. So we list again. I got file 1 and file 2. So now cat has been used as sort of like a quick and dirty text editor to create these files. And then I can use cat again. And this time I'm going to feed cat a file name to work with, which is going to be file 1, and then another, file 2. And then we're going to give it someplace to put this stuff out. We're going to put it into a file. We're going to call this one file 3. So let's go ahead and turn that loose. And we'll let ls again, list, and look, we have those 3 files there now. So if we cat file 3, look what we come up with. This is line 1, this is line 2. Now here's another neat trick that cat will do. Let's say that I want to add a line to the end of an existing file. I want to append to it. Now this is a way that you could, in a very quick and dirty way, add a line to an end of a configuration file somewhere in the system. And you have to do that sometimes to turn on certain options or whatever, right? But this is for the very brave at heart or the idiotic, because if you get this wrong, you could trash the entire file and then you might be in a whole world of trouble. But I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. It's your computer, trash it if you want to. So this time we're going to cat, and we're going to use 2 of those redirect symbols, and we're going to tell it that we want to go into file 3. And by the way, I am using the bash ability to autocomplete by hitting tab when I type enough of the file name for it to be unique. Yeah, keeps me from having to type, and that way I won't make a whole bunch of mistakes. So this time I'm going to add This is line 3. Control D yet again. And we're going to cat that file3.txt. Boom, there you go. Cat. It's one of my favorite little commands, and it'll do some crazy stuff, yo. You can take huge amounts of data and feed it through cat and then come up with one big file. And it's not just for text. You can do it with other kinds of files for other reasons. But we're not going to get into that here. We're working on the text, the whole text thing. So this is all fun and when you're working with pretty small files. But what if you're working with files that are larger? Control L to clear the screen, or you can type clear, whichever one works best for you. We're going to look now at less. Now, those of you who have been around computing for a while will know that there's a really old program called more. And what you do with more is you send big chunks of data into it, and then it allows you to page through it. It's a pager. Well, less is more than less. No, more is less than, wait a minute, hold on. Less is more than more. That's what I wanted to say. Make sure we got that right. Less does some pretty cool things. So let's just look at like one of the files we were just looking at here with this. It's really kind of stupid to do this with this program, but it'll give you a little bit of an idea of how it works. So there it is. Less is now displayed that, and to get out of it, you just press Q, and that's it. You're done. When you use the man pages on your system, you're actually reading things with less. It's a very powerful little tool. But it really shines when you're looking at a file that's big. So I'm going to look at something in my home directory here. We're going to go to the work directory, and I'm going to look for the file that I used to hold the ASCII art that I used to create that opening. This is just the ASCII art that I generated. I needed some place to put it, so I put it in here. Well, if I look at it with less, I can now scroll up and down using the arrow keys one line at a time, like so. Or I can use the space bar to go page by page. Or I can go page up, page down. I can go through the entire file. So there's the ASCII art that I used. When I'm done, press Q and I'm out. Less is a very powerful tool. And it is a quick and dirty way to read text files if you're just trying to find something very quick. You can even search within less. So let us find a tool now that is a bit more advanced for creating text. And you might find this to be a safer option simply because it doesn't take your word for it when you press enter or control D and automatically just go send it off to the file. No, it gives you a chance to review what you're doing and think. We're going to talk about nano. I am a nano fan. I do not like VI. And I'm not even going to talk about VI. So nano is a text editor, and it you just start typing text. This is, okay. This is text from nano. Okay. And that's it. And then you want to control it. You want to save it, rather. You hit Control and you hit O, and you give it a file name. And we're just going to call it nano1.txt. And then we'll press Enter. And we have saved our file. So let's see, Control X to exit. And we can use whatever we want to read that. We can read it in nano, but let's just do it with cat. So we just created a text file. But there's a lot more features in nano, and you might find it to be a bit more user-friendly. So if we use nano to actually look at a script, for instance, we'll use it now to look at the script that we just created. Let me go ahead and go back here and make it a little easier to get to stuff. Work. And then we're going to go to, let's look at the welcome script. No. That's not what we wanted. Nano. Duh. Okay. Welcome. Here we go. And that'll open it up with nano. So this is the file that you saw running. This is the actual script, and I can go down through here and you can see that we have all kinds of notations, different color changes to show us what the code is doing. All right, There's where we scrolled that, and then this is where the text pops up, and it's all just basically echoing lines and telling the thing to sleep. And we called on chksys to display some stuff with some images next to it. This is how the beginning worked. That's it. Done. And you thought it was going to be really complicated. No, it's actually quite easy. So that is Nano. You can poke around with Nano to your heart's content. It's really quite useful. It does some very interesting things. The only thing I don't like about Nano is the way it word wraps stuff. So I ran into a situation a few years ago where I wanted to be able to display text on the screen without any cursors, and I wanted to do it from a terminal like I was doing presentations, and there really isn't anything out there. If I open up the less program, it's got something down at the bottom. If I open up Nano, there's something at the top and the bottom. I wanted it just to be able to display text. So what I came up with was a little display tool called Show. So let's go back into Stuff, and I'll show you what Show does. And you just enter in Show, and then just start giving it files to work with. So we're going to give it file3.txt, and we're also going to just go ahead and give it a long file to work with, because then it'll make sense. Let's do that ASCII art file again. Alright, I've got 2 files here, and then I press enter, and it just shows those files. I hit enter again, it shows the next file. The only thing is, if it's too long, you'll have to scroll up when it goes to the next file. So the idea really was to have nice little text files that had like presentation cards on them, but you could do it with a text file that was bigger. You just have to scroll. But you notice here that there are no cursors on the screen. Now if I hit enter again, I'm going to get a warning that tells me there's no more files, which means I'm about ready to exit the program. And then I hit exit, and that's it. That's all Show does. Now these tools that I'm talking about are available at EzeeLinux.com on the bash script page. You can go get Show and play with it if you want to. It is absolutely free, and it is hosted on GitHub. Okay, just CD then. Forget the ... I was going to do one of those slicky deals where you go up one directory, and CD will just take you to your home directory anyway, so we don't need to worry about that. So that is Show. So the next thing we're going to talk about is SSH, and this is a command that I can't really get into all of the explanations about how to set it up and make it work on your system, because it really is going to be different depending on how you use it. SSH stands for Secure Shell, and what it allows you to do is log into other computer systems. For instance here, what do you say? I don't know. We are logged into the server that runs EzeeLinux.com right now, and the name of that server is Wasteland, and I am connected to it even though that machine physically lives in Texas and I'm in the state of Virginia. I'm doing it over the internet. SSH can be used on public machines like that have internet facing the server is actually looking for people to log in from anywhere, or you can use it on your own personal network. Most of what I'm going to show you today is about using it on your personal network, but I'm in this machine, and here we are. We'll get back to this in a minute. There's some things in here I want to show you, but like, for instance, I don't even have anything in the home directory on this machine to look at, so ls doesn't even work. But we'll get back to that in just a few moments anyway. So SSH, you have to have the IP address of the machine you're trying to log into, or you have to know its host name. For instance, if it's a public machine, then it'll probably be something like, the domain name would be something like momscomputer.com or some crazy stuff, or anything. There are some services that you can get where you can have SSH on a private network hang out on to a public network. Now, I don't do that at home, and it's a security risk actually to do that on your home system. It's a little different on a server, but SSH is very secure. It's hard to get into, at all. I have no problems showing you how to use SSH because the authentications that I am using are key-based. If you don't have my key, you ain't getting in my stuff. That's all there is to it. Even if you broke into my network, you can just sit there and bang all day. It ain't going to happen. So let's go ahead and log into a machine. I have a couple of them up running here. And let me do it the long way first, and then I'll show you about sshn, which is a little thing that I wrote. So SSH, and I have a machine on my network which is 192.168.0.12. Not just 12. All right, let's log in. It's going out. It's looking for that machine. And now we are in. It took it a couple of seconds to get itself logged in. And you can see that Ubuntu gives me some status information. It tells me that we have some updates are available and things like that. And as far as the machine is concerned, I'm logged in just like I'm sitting in front of it. I just happen to be in a terminal. And this is very powerful stuff. So when you sit down in front of any Linux machine anywhere, the client is already running. It's already on the machine. You can log into any system that's available to you and you have the credentials to get into. If you want a machine to be available to be logged into, that's when you have to set up the server and you have to send it the keys and all that stuff. We're not going to get into all of that. I have several videos up about that, plus there are many wonderful tutorials on the internet about how to set up SSH. I just want to show you how it works. So once I'm in here, I can do anything. You know, I'm in my own account. I have an account on these machines. So I have all of my home files, and I can do anything I want to. And we're going to jump back into this machine later and do some more with it. I just wanted to show you what SSH was like. Okay, so the next tool that I want to show you goes along with SSH, and that is sftp. And I love sftp. It's so old. It's crusty. It's ancient. It's dirty. It does lovely things. I just love it. So let's do sftp the long way. sftp. And this time around, I'm going to log into another machine to make sure it's awake. I'm going to do 192.168.0.13. And we're not going to get the same login as before. It's just going to come up and it says SFTP, and we're ready to go. Now, this is one you really have to know how to use. But what we are into here is a file transfer program. Secure File Transfer Protocol. That's what we're doing, and we're doing that through SSH. By the way, that is encrypted. Nobody can sniff it on your network, so it makes it quite easy to use. So let us do an ls, and when I do that, I'm doing it on the remote machine, the one that I'm logged into. So that's the machine I'm on that is logged in the other room. And then if I do LLS, this is showing the local machine. So if you put L in front of it, it works fine. You can also do this to get your working directory. So present working directory, it says that we're working in /home/Joe on the remote machine. And if we do lpwd, then this is showing me the local working directory. Now I can change the local working directory, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to lcd, we're going to stuff. Remember that stuff thing we were working with? I typed that incorrect. Okay, we'll go to stuff. Okay, so now if I do lpwd, I'm in that directory called stuff that we created when we were fooling around. So we got some files to play with. And we can put them in here, and then I can get rid of them later. So the first thing that you can do is get a file. So let's go and, well, if you get it right, you can. Get a file. And let's see, I'm going to grab, oh Lord, I have no idea what to get off this machine over here. None whatsoever. Well, I don't know, let's grab something from music, right? Let's do this. Get music, and then it tells me there's a bunch of stuff in there. Where would I like to go next? Well, let's go to Christmas music. So I don't have to type the whole thing in. I can just autofill. It's the same thing as working at Bash. So now we are going to be in there. And I don't know, let's pick an artist. Bing Crosby. Let's pick something from Bing. Let's do the 12 Days of Christmas. And all we got to do is this. And 1, 2. And that should be enough. Yes. So we're going to get that, and we're going to bring it over to this machine, and we're going to put it in the directory called stuff. And it's bringing it over, and it is copied, and that is it. We are done. So now what I want to do is I want to take a file and put it on the other machine. It goes both ways. So if I wanted to put a file, then I would do this. Let's go ahead and clear the screen. And we're going to do put. Now remember, this is from the local machine. And we're going to do file 3, like so. And we're going to put this file on the local machine, and we'll just throw it in the home directory. We're just going to make this real simple. Not going to try and redirect it anywhere. And it's over there. It just went through the network. It's done. And if you want to make sure it's there, what we do is run ls, and then you see that that file made it over there. And then if we lls, we see that we have 12 Days of Christmas and stuff. So this is pretty cool. And to do directories, you can do exactly the same thing. For instance, what if I wanted to get, for some reason or another, I use this all the time to transfer configuration files. So if I wanted to transfer configuration files for, let's see, what's over there? Well, we could use Thunderbird. It's going to be a lot of files, but that's okay. It's no big deal. So we can do Thunderbird. We're going to get .thunderbird, which is a directory that has stuff in it, right? And we will do R, because now we're doing it recursively. I'm telling it get the whole directory, not just a file. And if I turn this loose, watch, it's pulling all that stuff over the network, and it's all going to be landing into this directory. And this might take a little while because there's a lot of files, you know. But if I wanted to, for some reason, bring this over and put this on another computer, which I've had done many times, then this is how you would do it. And this is taking a little while to do. That's all right. I can look at my notes and see what we're going to do next. Okay, so now I want to show you my shorty cuts. Actually, I can just Control-C and get out of that. We don't actually have to pull all that over. Control-L. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. I can just get rid of it later. So when you're done with this, you can either type bye to sever the connection, or you can type exit. I like to type bye because that's so old school. That's it, SFTP. I love SFTP. It's one of my favorite tools. And you know, I tried to explain that before in past videos, and I always kind of got it wrong, so I'm kind of glad I got it right this time around. Okay, so let's talk about what I kind of stumbled on. I was talking about doing these logins. It's a lot of typing because with SSH, you either have to give it the name of the computer, if there is a name service available and it will resolve it, or you have to give it the IP address on your network. Some of the modern routers, in fact most of them, don't have name servers, so you can't do like SSH to oof, which is the name of the other machine. You have to use static IP addresses. It's the only way to do it. So what I have done is create these lovely little aliases. I could have put them in the bash rc file to make that work, or I could have done it different ways, but I like to create little scripts so I can keep up with these things. So let's take a look at one of them right now, and you know what? I'm going to use gedit to do this, and we're going to look at my local bin directory, and it is called sshin. I'm going to load that up in gedit. There we go. Just a real simple, what is it, 6-line little script here. This is actually available in the EzeeLinux Bash Script Collection 2020. It's part of a bunch of other stuff I threw in there if you want to get it and kind of do that for yourself. And it's just one command. It's just SSH, and then it turns on the X forwarding feature, which we're going to talk about next. And then whatever last 2 digits of the IP address I put in there, it automatically throws into there, and boom, it's done. It's that simple. So that's how that works. And I can go ahead and close that. And now let's talk about X forwarding. This is one of the coolest things about SSH is that it will allow you to open up graphical applications on remote machines and display them with the graphics on your local machine. Now, it doesn't work very well with very complex graphical applications like web browsers that need direct access to the video card, and it's kind of slow, but you'd be surprised how much mileage you can get out of it if you're just like doing configurations or you want to check things out. So let's go ahead and sftpin. I've got another one, sftpin, which you've already seen how sftp works. So if I do sshn, and let's see, what machine should we pull this off of? Let's do this machine, and we are logged in. And we're just going to type gnome disks, which is the disks utility, and this way I can get a graphic representation of what is happening with the hard drives on this machine. Now, we're doing this through the network, and it's a Wi-Fi network, so things might be a little slow. You have to have patience. Sometimes I type this in and forget it and go off and do something else, and then it pops up and I go, wow, where'd that come from? It'll be here in just a second, boys. I'm telling you, it's taking its sweet time this time around, that's for sure. There it is. It's because I'm doing a video. It knows. Sometimes that's 2 seconds. But anyway, I can take a quick look at the hard drives on these machines, see where they're at, see what state they're in, and when I'm done, I can close it. And this application is running on that computer, but I'm seeing it here because it is telling the X window server, the server is sending it to the client on this machine. That's a whole nother kettle of fish, is how X works. I'm not getting into all that for this video, but that's one of the cool things that you can do with it right there. So there you go, SSH, SFTP. I can't even read my own notes. Hold on a second. Oh, I've already showed you all that stuff. So now we can start having a little fun with this, and we can move on to our next category. So I guess let me go ahead and exit and get out of that machine and get back here to the local big boy machine we're recording on. And the next thing we're going to do is talk about checking on the network and gathering information and seeing whether things are up there. And this will play into some other scripts and programs I'm going to show you a little bit later on in the video. So a lot of the times you're sitting there at your computer and you can't figure out whether you have an internet connection or not. There's a real quick way to find out. It's a program called Ping, and it works with any website. If your internet is working, then you can just put in youtube.com. Anything will do. It doesn't matter. It could be Google, could be, doesn't make any difference. And as long as that website will return pings, it's going to tell you whether it's there or not, and it's also going to tell you how fast. Now this will just keep going forever and ever and ever. At one time in an old video I said it would do like 64 and stop. I was kind of just throwing out a number at that point. So some people said, no, it's not 64 times, it'll go on forever. I meant like 64,000 or whatever, but anyway, it won't stop until I stop it with Control-C. I can limit that if I need to. So let's do it that way real quick. Let's do ping, and then we're going to do a count, and I only want it to do 3 pings. And this time around, I'm going to do a machine on my own network, 192.168.0.13. Let's make sure that that's still alive. What did I do wrong? Oh, I see what I did wrong. You got to type that in right, man. Get that back up there. See what I did? I did a comma instead of a period. It happens. So here we go. And yes, that machine is up. It pinged it 3 times. That can be very useful for scripts, ladies and gentlemen. You can use the exit code from ping to tell a script whether a machine is online and available and ready to go. So what happens if you do a machine that isn't there? Well, I'm going to do one that I'm pretty sure is offline, and it's trying really hard, and it's going, I can't get there, there's nothing there. I sent it out, man, but it's not replying to me. And at some point it times out and says, I just didn't hear anything, so never mind as far as that machine is concerned. Okay, the next tool I want to show you is just a way of gathering information about your network. And you can see what your current IP address is real easy. This is an old school tool that I actually like, and it may or may not be installed on your Ubuntu system, depending on what version you have. You may have to install a package called NetTools because they're trying to deprecate ifconfig, which I think is a terrible thing. I love ifconfig because it is so neatly laid out and it tells me everything about my machine. And for instance, like one of the things that you might need to know is what your current IP address is. Just look for inet right there, and on this wireless network my IP address is 192.168.0.11. Pretty cool, huh? Good information to have. Now there's another way to get that, and that's using the IP command. This is kind of new. The IP command, if I put in IP addr, let me clear that and then run it. It gives the same output, but boy, that's look at the way that is kind of laid out. It's like ugh. Hard to tell what you're looking at with that, right? I guess you'd get used to it after a while, but I'm just not a big fan of it. So one of the things that you have to find out sometimes is what your gateway is on a network. You see that all the time. It'll ask for the gateway, and what you do then is you can clear the screen, and you can use IP again, and to get your gateway you put in route or root, whatever works for you. And now it's going to tell us what the gateway is, and in this network it's 192.168.0.1 because it's right up here. It says default via that particular device, and that's the gateway, and then it's on this wireless network, and there you go. Gives you kind of some basic information. And if you're looking for your net mask, by the way, that is in ifconfig. So let me point that out to you real quick. Because some people are going, where do you find this stuff? You know, you look on how to like set up static IPs, and it's asking for this information. Well, this is where you get it. Let's see where the net mask is. It'll tell me here for this network 192.168. Net mask 255.255.255.0 is right there. And another way to express that is 24. Now that's too complicated to explain in this video, but you can just type 24 instead of 255.255.255.0 in the static IP setup box, and it'll work just fine. Okay, so we have looked at looking around on the network. So the next thing that we want to look at is working with files, because this is important, right? And we're talking about finding files, deleting files, moving files around the system, that sort of thing. And I've got a big cheat for you. Yes, you could use all kinds of wonderful commands to do that. You could use the copy and the move command and all that stuff. Let me tell you what, it's real easy just to install MC and put this program in here. Makes it a lot easier. And what this does is it allows you to peruse your file system very quickly. I use this to search and destroy. This is a file manager that runs in the terminal. And for instance, if I'm looking for something in config, like I installed a piece of software and I want to get rid of the old configuration, I can just go through here and look for it real fast, and then I can use this to delete it. This is an incredibly powerful program, and there's no way in the world I would ever use all the features. And it's running in a terminal, but check this, see? It's mouse driven. So you can do a lot with it. So let's just do something really simple with it. How's that? So what we want to do is we're going to go find a file. Let's go find a file, and I should have in here, let's go up one directory. I'm using the arrow keys, by the way, to move around. And so now I want to go back up again, and I want to go and look for stuff, which is what we created. Remember stuff? Yeah, there it is. And so this is where we're at. And let us say that we wanted to move file 3 somewhere. Well, we'd have to select our destination. And over here we will go to, let's just go down to work. Why not? We'll put it in work, right? And so we'll use the tab key to switch back over, and we will select our file like that. And let's say that we wanted to copy it. So I'm going to use the mouse and come down here and click copy. And it's telling me that it wants it from here. And we're going to put it in work. And then we have all kinds of different things that we can choose here. And then all we got to do to go ahead and turn it loose is do OK. And we can also choose multiple files. So let's go ahead and move these two. So now, let's see, how do I do this? I'm hitting Control. I've done this before. Oh, it's the space bar. That's right. So go to the file you want, hit the space bar, go down. Is it Control space bar? There's a way to do this, and I don't use this every day. Somebody's out there screaming at the screen going, I know how to do that. You do that way. Yeah, you do that way. That's how you do it. So, okay, well, maybe it's Enter. Let's see. How do you do that? There's a way to do it. Hold on, this is going to drive me nuts. Well, that's the problem here. Hold on. Let's see. Let's go back up here and try this one more time. No, that's not how you do that. How do I select more than one file? Hold on. I'm going to figure this out. Okay, I figured it out. I haven't done it in so long that you use the Insert key to select the file, like so. So if we wanted to move, let's do Bing, and then let's do this last file here. And now we want to copy that over like before. We can just use, let's see, it's F5 down here, and it comes up and it says, oh, you want to copy all those files we've selected? Why, yes, absolutely. Let's bring them over there. So boom, and there you go. Do you want to overwrite this file? Well, absolutely. I don't care. That's fine. So this is a very nice way to do this without, you know what I mean, getting too confused with your commands that you're putting into the system, and you're doing them one by one and you're working with a lot of files. It can be a big pain. But anyway, that's Midnight Commander or MC, and you can install that real easy from the command line. And then when you want out, it's F10 to get out like so, and you're back to where you were. Just took me a little while to figure that out. Okay, so what's next on our list of fun here? I just haven't done it in so long. Usually what I use that program for is search and destroy. I just go and find stuff that I want to get rid of, and it goes away. So let's see, MC. The next thing that we want to talk about is rsync. Oh my goodness, rsync. Rsync is one of the most powerful commands in Linux, and it is a very dangerous command. So what does it do? Well, it moves data from one place to the next, and it respects things like directory structure, file attributes, all that kind of stuff. And there's even a graphical front end on it called rsync that you can use. And you have to kind of understand that this command requires a lot of thought and input. So what can we do with it? Well, let's do this, okay? Let's do rsync, and then we're going to give it A, which is archive, which means that the files are going to be moved over exactly as they are. We're not going to change the timestamps or anything like that. We're going to do this verbosely, which means it's going to tell us what it's doing as it goes along. And I am going to have it give us progress to look at, just so we have something on the screen. And then you put in your source and your destination. So in this case, our source is going to be stuff, which is a directory. And we definitely want to have that little slash at the end there, okay? We do not want to not have that, because what it will do, if you don't have the slash here, it will grab that whole directory and put it wherever we want to go. It'll recreate it within. We just want to grab all the stuff in that directory. So we want it to actually do it within. So we're going to make sure the slash is there. Ah, there it is. All right. And we're going to do stuff too. Or this could be stuff backup. And you want to make sure that you have the slash there. Because we're going to take what's in here and we're going to put it in what's in there. And here we go. All right, we have backed everything up. It is done. And if we clear the screen and ls, you'll see that we now have a directory in there called stuff2. And it's just got all the original things that are in there. Now let me show you where the power comes in, because right now you're saying, well, I could have done that with the copy command. I don't get it. So let's go into stuff1. Let's go to cd s2uff. We're in there, and we're going to list the storage there. Let's go ahead and get rid of that .thunderbird, that hidden thing that you can't see. You see, you can't see it because it's got a dot in front of it. So we're going to get rid of that. So we're going to rm, and we're going to do .thunderbird, like so. Boosh, it's gone. All right. Now we'll cd, go back to the home directory, and we're going to bring up our rsync command again. This time around, I'm going to add, in front of the progress there, another option. And this is a dangerous option. You need to be careful with this. It is delete. And what this is going to tell it to do is that anything that is different, anything that's been deleted in the source directory needs to be deleted in the destination directory. So here we go. And that went by very quick. So let me see what it did. It's deleting that. It got rid of that. So what if we just change a file? Watch this. So I'm going to run touch. Now if you touch a file, it changes the access date time, the date and time when the file was last looked at. So we're going to do this in stuff. Let me go ahead and clear this screen. Do this in stuff. And the file that we're going to look at is, let's do file 3. All right, we're going to touch that file. And now we're going to run rsync again. Watch what happens. Do you see how the one file got changed there? That's because we changed it. So as you can see, every time we do this, it's only taking over what has changed. It's making an exact copy in stuff 2 of what is in stuff 1. And rsync is the center command of a lot of backup software, including backup software that I myself have written and use, and some of you might be using that as well. So let me see here what I have next. So we can use rsync through SSH, which is pretty awesome. So if SSH is already set up, then it just assumes that it's going to be using SSH if you give it an IP address to go to. So let's copy a file to another computer. Let's do 14, and we'll go to cd stuff, like so. And we're going to ls, and let's see, we still got file 3 in here, so that's always our guinea pig. So this time we're going to do rsync, and we are going to do the A again. We're going to do it verbosely, and we're going to compress it. This is important when you're sending files over a network. And we're not going to put delete in there, but I am going to put in progress. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And our source is going to be, well, we're in that directory right now, so we'll just do file. We don't have to tell it, we're just sending a file over, so let's see, it should be just, no, get it right, Joe, get it right. File 3. All right. And now we're going to send it to the home directory of one of these computers that we're hooked up with SSH, right? So let's do 192.168.0.13, and we use a colon, and we're going to tell it to put it in the home directory right there, just the home directory. So I'm going to represent that with a dot because that would be the current directory on that machine when it logs in. and that file should appear. So let's go and do that right now. And it said it did it, and it did it through the network, and of course there's nothing in these files, so it's done immediately. So let's go over there and take a look and see if that file made it. Let's go into 13 and clear the screen and list it, and there it is. It made it over there. It is in that machine. I think that's the same file that we used before to do sftp when I was showing you that. So if it was, it just updated it. That's all it did. So that's the basics of how the rsync command works. Let me go ahead and get out of this machine for the moment. And that particular command is really quite useful. Now, it's unwieldy as well, and like I said, it is dangerous. So what I did was I used it to write some backup software. And the backup software itself just makes sure that everything is set up the way it ought to be for the destination. And that software is called BU. And I use it to keep backups of all of my machines, the home directories. And you can find that as well at EzeeLinux.com on the bash scripts page. Just look for BU. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. So if I get out of here, stop doing that. That's what you want, or just CD. Okay. So hopefully this should work since I plugged in the drive. Yes, I did. BU works by having a designated drive with a partition on it that is called BU drive. It looks for it. And so if I type in BU and then I turn it loose, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask for my password. And now it's going to do a backup using rsync of my system. Now this should only take a couple of seconds. There's not a whole lot of data, but it's doing exactly the same thing that we saw it do with the stuff directories. We're just doing it on a much larger scale with the entire home directory on the machine. Not only my user account, but any other user account on the machine. So that is quite useful. Now, we looked at ping earlier, as you'll recall. Right now it's syncing the drives and making sure that I can remove that drive I plugged in. It takes longer to sync the drives than it does to actually move the data over, simply because of the fact that it's not really writing it, it's just holding it in memory. It's just got a gig of data sitting in the cache, and then it does that. That's why it's taking a little while to do this. Hurry up so we can move on with the video, please. I'd appreciate it. The next thing we're going to look at is another application of rsync that uses the network tools. Okay, we're back out of that, so I can go ahead and take that out of there. And the next thing that we're going to look at here is a program that I came up with called syncit. And syncit uses rsync the way we transferred that one file over, but we do it for specific directories. So if we do syncit and then I put in 13, this is just on my network, and I press enter, watch what happens. It's going to do all of my data directories. It does pictures and music, and it does, let's see, it does documents, and it does desktop. Not everything, but the stuff that I would like to keep synced up between different machines. Now, what if I want to do that and I want to put that out to all of the machines on the network? Aha! Well, that's when you run syncall. And what syncall does is it goes out and it looks for those machines. It sees that 12 is online. So we're going to go ahead and sync up everything in those directories on 12, and then it's going to go look for 13, and it's going to do the same thing, and now it's going to look for machine 14, and 14 is not on the network right now, so it says no. So how is that doing that? Well, it is using ping to look for the machines, and if they are there, then it is going ahead with rsync commands to make sure that all the data gets synced up. So that's how that works. Another one that you can find in the bash scripts collection on the EzeeLinux bash scripts page at EzeeLinux.com. That particular tool needs a lot of tweaking to work on your own network. A lot of these things are customized for my network, and you can go check that out there. So those are how we do backups around here. And then I also have another program called RBU, which I can take a disk and plug it into a remote machine, and I can run BU through SSH on that machine. We're not pulling files through the network. We're doing a local backup on that machine, but I can run it from there. You see, we're relying on the desktop to automatically mount it for BU, and you have to do it manually on a remote machine. So that's slightly different code, and you'll find that in that EzeeLinux collection as well. Okay, one last thing to look at before we move on from manipulating files is timeshift. Timeshift is a program that creates system snapshots, and you can restore the system back to a former state. It's a very useful program, and I run it on all my machines. And most people know it from working with it in the graphic user environment. But it also has a terminal component where you can do some very useful things with it. So let's take a look at timeshift. If I just type in timeshift, what comes up is just a help list. It's going to tell us all the different things that it'll do. So you have to kind of give it something to do, and you have to do it as a root user, because timeshift definitely affects system files. So we can list all the different snapshots that were taken on this machine. I have this thing set up to do 3 dailies and hang on to 2 weekly snapshots. Now, timeshift, it is capable of backing up your personal data from the home directories. But by default, that is not the way it's supposed to work. What it does is it actually backs up everything that is in the root directory, except for what's in home. So let me clear that and do that one more time. So it's not going to back up what is in the home directory, but everything else will get backed up, and it'll be put into this directory called timeshift. So if at any time there is a problem with the system, you can roll back to a known good state. All right. So we could do timeshift restore, and then we can pick one of those and we can roll back. Now, it's very important to have that ability to access this stuff with the terminal, because one of the reasons you might want to roll back the state of your system is that your desktop is not working, and the only way that you can get to it is by logging in the terminal, and that does want to happen for sure. So timeshift works from the terminal as well, and I jump in all the time and check on the machines to see what's going on with that. So we'll clear the screen. And let's see, what else have we got here? What we want to get into now is monitoring the system, trying to figure out what's going on with things. And there's a real nifty program that does this all in one shot, and it's called htop. And when you run htop, you get a graphical representation of what is happening with your CPUs. And you also see how much memory you're using, how much swap you're using, none in this case. Tells you how long the machine has been up, and it gives you your load average there, which are very useful numbers. It's telling me this machine's been working a little bit. What do we got? 1.3. Well, that's because we're capturing video, And total tasks running, 162, that sort of thing. And there you go. We can see all the processes running on the machine, and then we can kill them if we want to, or we can change their priority. It's a very, very powerful tool. It is a useful upgrade to a standard tool that goes way, way back in Linux history called top. I have to at least show it to you. Top is just not that user-friendly. It kind of shows you the same things, and it gives you all kinds of great information up top about what the machine is doing, but it just, you have to kind of figure out what you're looking at. So, never been a big fan of top, to tell you the truth. Control-C exits top. So htop came along, and now this is the first thing that I install every time I start a Linux system. And if you're wondering why you're seeing such high CPU activity, it's because we're capturing 30 frames per second HD video, and that's just what it looks like on this older computer. It doesn't have that powerful of video card. Htop, there is enough. I have a whole video up about it, and it just does many multiple things. Very useful program. But sometimes Htop might be a little bit too big for the task. You might just want to jump in and get some information real quick. So let me show you some of the dirty ones that I like. First is the free command. And you can do it one of two ways. You can either get the output in megabytes, and it just tells you what's going on with the memory right there, how much is used, how much is free, how much is in cache, and how much is in swap. But the way I like to run it is humanly readable, which will choose values that you can understand, like gigabytes, and actually they're gibibytes and mebibytes, I think is what they're doing here. But you know what that is when you look at it. Oh, we're using 1.6 gigs of memory on this machine right now. That's just regular memory. That doesn't have anything to do with cache or whatever. And that's free. That's what it does. And there's also another program called Disk Free that tells you exactly about what your disks are using. And on Ubuntu these days, because of the snap packages, it makes it kind of interesting. You have to kind of look at what you're looking at, and it also, by default, gives you the output in bytes, which is, or whatever that is, kilobytes, I think. It's big numbers. So we need to change that a little bit. So we'll reissue that command, and once again, we'll make it humanly readable. And now we get something that seems semi-useful. So if we go down here and we look at our root directory, which is dev sda1, you see that that is about 60 gigabytes. 20 gigabytes is used, 36 gigabytes is available, and it'll give you that useful information. And then the next thing that we want to look at is just a really simple command that will tell you about uptime and what the computer is doing. This is actually good to know. How long has the machine been on, and how many people are logged in, and how hard is it working? So you get that information there. So what I did was I took all of those and put them into a script called chksys. And let me show you that real quick, because it's really a super simple script. And we're going to look at it in gedit. All right. And once again, this is something that you have to tailor for your own system. It'll work on pretty much any standard Ubuntu system, but if you get some weird stuff come out of it, then that might be a problem. Well, that's kind of out of date right there. You see how that's looking for bin? There is no more bin directory. It's just a link to user/bin. I need to fix that, or it still works. I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, what this does is it just tells you memory usage, and then disk usage and uptime, and it does it very quickly, and it has the absolute paths to the programs, which means it's not going through the path statement, which that means it'll load quicker. When you're working in bash, things can be a little slow sometimes, and that's one way to get around it right there. So if I run that on this computer right here, this is what I get. And you'll notice that where the df command, we filtered out all that extra garbage about loop file systems that the snaps live in and things like that. So it pretty much just knows to look for actual real physical drives to give the information about. Now, where I find this particularly useful, and I hope this hasn't timed out because we haven't been playing around for quite some time. I've been listing the storage in there, is on my server. And this is the server that I use for the EzeeLinux.com and the EzeeTalk forums. All runs off this particular server. So whenever I log into the server with SSH, I want to know what's going on. I actually have it in the bash rc file for this machine. So if I less.bash rc, you will see that at the very end right here, we have chksys. And that way, as soon as I log in, boom, it tells me exactly what's going on. By the way, the server doesn't run on Ubuntu. This is CentOS that we're running on here. And I'll show you a few things about that a little bit later on as we roll on in the video. So what else did we need to talk about? Well, I think that's basically it as far as monitoring what the systems are doing. And so the last thing that I wanted to talk about was updating things, which is actually quite important, right? So in Ubuntu, if you want to run an update from the terminal, it's actually two commands, sudo apt update, and you can run that first, and now it'll go out and look for updates. And I don't know why it's taking, there it goes. And it says that we have 13 packages that can be upgraded, and if you want to see them, you could list them. And so if we wanted to upgrade those packages, then we would do sudo apt. There's a full upgrade, I think. That's the new one. Or you could also use the old school, which is dist upgrade. If you would just do upgrade here, like so, just put in upgrade. Then it's going to upgrade the packages but not change system files like kernel stuff. So that's the difference between that. So if I wanted to do that, then I would go ahead and make that happen that way. But what I did was I wrote a script called up that combines a lot of these commands together, because there's also other things that you might want to do. There is sudo apt, let's see, there's auto clean. And auto clean goes through the cache and finds things that don't need to be there and gets rid of them. And so that kind of keeps your cache managed. Or you can just put in clean, and what that does is it just blows out the cache where all the packages are held onto. When you download a program or update it, it hangs onto a copy of the program, so that if you have to reinstall it for whatever reason, it doesn't necessarily have to go back online, but you can clean that cache out. So what I did was I took a lot of those commands and I combined them together in a program called up. And I use this every single day, the up program. So let me show you how that works. Let's do up, and I want to show you the help file, and it'll show you all the different things that it does. So if you just type up, what it does is it goes out and it updates, and then it installs whatever updates are available, and it does a full upgrade. If you use remove at the end, it will do an auto remove. It'll just go through and it will remove any orphaned packages that are installed on the system. And I think that it runs the auto remove as well. Maybe not, I'm not sure. Clean does that, I think. We can find out real quick exactly what it does. The one that I use all the time is up remove. For instance, that will remove old kernels from the machine. So that's really quite useful. So let me go ahead and get out of that. And what we're going to do is go ahead and look at the code on this so we can see what that does. And it's absurdly simple, ladies and gentlemen. Some of you guys are going to be like, that it didn't even need to be a script. It really didn't. What happened was I wanted to write something that I could use to show how functions worked in scripts, and this is what I came up with, and then it actually turned out to be a useful tool and people wanted to use it. So it's available, you can download it. So let's just get up there and we'll take a look at what that looks like. So as you can see, we have a lot of functions, and the first one is apt update and then full upgrade right there. So that is just the regular up. Clean, what does that do? It does auto clean right there. That's all that does. And then we have apt auto remove, which gets rid of the old packages. And I don't like to use clean as in like clean out the entire cache. The cache is there for a reason. You really should keep it around, but you certainly don't need to keep old packages that don't do anything and you can't install anymore either. So that's what that looks like. You can download that and play with it if you want to. Well, let's see here. We got a couple more things to talk about. Oh, I'll save that for last. First of all, let's see some of these things in action. Let's jump into a computer and actually use them. And the computer that we're going to jump into, let's do ahead and do 13. I'll show you kind of what I do. Like, so let's say I haven't been in this machine for a while. So the first thing that I think I want to do is I want to go ahead and get rid of file number 3 from where we were putting that in there. It doesn't need to be there. And then the first thing that I would do is just check and see what the machine is doing. So I could run chksys, and this will give me a really quick status about what's going on with this particular machine. And I could also run htop if I wanted to see what processes were running and how hard the machine was working. I can use this list right here, and I could kill things. If there's anything locked up in the background, I can get rid of that. It's Q to exit htop. And then, of course, while I'm here, I would do up, and we'll go ahead and do remove, although I don't think there's going to be anything to remove. But the reason why you would want to remove is if you had like old kernels installed. This will go ahead and take care of them on Ubuntu. So this machine is going to do all its updates and download everything, and it'll be completely automatic. It's grabbing the packages. It's already got them. Now it's doing its installation. And it's installing a new version of a config file. And the lovely thing about working remotely is it's just like being on the machine. I absolutely love SSH because when you're logged in, it's just like being there, and other people can be running the machine. Remember, Linux is a multi-user system, so you can have more than one person logged in by SSH or a physical real terminal if they want to. And I'm doing updates a lot of the times, and my son is playing games, and Cindy's watching movies or doing this, never even know this stuff's going on. So the updates are done on that computer. And of course, we've already looked at the disks, so I don't need to do that. I like to check and see what the temperatures are and make sure that there aren't any alarms and that sort of thing. We don't need to do that. So once we get it all ready to go, usually I reboot them after installing updates, or I will just go ahead and shut them down. And in this case, let's go ahead and just shut this thing down. So we will do sudo power off, and yes, you do need to use sudo because we're doing it through SSH. It doesn't like it. Matter of fact, if I type in power off, let me show you what it does. Control L. See, it's not going to let me. So we have to do it as root through SSH. So we'll go ahead and shut that machine down. We've already synced everything up. We've done our updates, checked on the drives. We know everything's good to rock and roll, so we'll put that to bed for the evening. It's actually pretty late at night when I'm recording this. And let's go ahead and kind of do the same thing with the EzeeLinux server. It's a little bit of a different deal. Thought I'd show you this just for fun. This machine runs on CentOS. So what I do is about once a week, I log in, and I run, you're going to see, let's see, you're going to see a lot of LS's here. Sudo yum update is what we're going to use there, which is one command in CentOS to actually do what we have to do with two commands in Debian and Ubuntu. Oh, it's not going to take that password. I typed in the wrong password. I forgot what machine I was on. Oops. There we go. It's going to go out and see if there's any files that we need. Yes. We have a few things to install. So we'll go ahead and do that. This won't take long at all. This machine is on a super blinding fast internet connection. It's unbelievable. I mean, like, the server that this is on just absolutely screams SSDs. It's pretty cool. And yes, it's called Wasteland. So now that I have done that, I have installed my updates. I want to see what the uptime is on this again. When was the last time I did this? It's been like 14 days since we had to install updates. So when I install updates on the server, I like to go ahead and reboot it. And there are people logged into the web page right now, and if they click anything within the next 5 seconds, they're going to get a 404 error. You ready? Here we go. And it says the connection's closed. And it is rebooting the machine. And we are done there. I can log back in, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come back up. Or we can just go to easylinux.com and click on it here in the next like 20 seconds. But the reboot time on this machine is like ridiculously fast. It's like 3 or 4 seconds and it's back up online and everything's loaded. So not that big of a deal. And I'm not going to get out of that terminal right now. So the last thing that I wanted to show you before we sign this thing off is just how to get help, because I've touched on this in past videos and there's always somebody who comes along and says, well, you didn't quite get that right. There's a lot of ways to do that. So one of the first ways you can look is man, which is the manual pages, and that will work for most anything. I think there's a manual page for move. Let's see. Yes, there is. So for the mv command, move command, you can read the manual page and it has the basic information. Pretty much anything that you have installed on your system, you can read the man page. Ask the man. But that doesn't work with everything, because some things don't have man pages, and sometimes software developers simply don't write them these days. So you got to watch out for that. But if I do like man cd, it says there ain't one. Now there is another set of documentation on your machine called info. Let's see if there's an info for CD. No, there's not. There's no info for CD. So what you need to do is maybe try this. Ta-da! Now we get something. So in that order, you can type in man, then the command you're looking for, info, and then as a last resort type in help. Now the reason why CD is not in the manuals or the information is because it is what's known as a built-in, and it's part of the bash command line interpreter. So you actually use bash help to figure out how to use it. So that way you can find documentation. Let's look at info for, see how that looks different for the move command. See if there's info for move. Why, yes, there is actually, and it works pretty much exactly the same way as the manual pages, and it's Q to get out. There's a lot of really good information in there that you can go read, and you can find out a great deal about your system. So that's it, gang. I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know how long this went because I paused it several times. We're just going to wait and see. I hope you enjoyed it, and there you go. And as a bonus at the end here, I guess some of you are dying to see the code that made that wonderful animation at the beginning. So before I leave, I'm going to go ahead and show that to you and go through how it worked, because I just threw it together and it's insanely simple. So let's do gedit, and then we're going to do the work directory, and the name of that is welcome, like so. And we're going to open up that. Let me go ahead and make this kind of a little bit bigger here. By the way, this line over here represents 80 columns, and that way I know if I'm going too long. So let's go to the top here. So we got the shebang to get it started, and then it clears the screen. We hide the cursor with a tput command, so we don't have the cursor blinking at us during the time that the script is running. We sleep, which means just pause for half a second, and then greetings and salutations. Unfortunately, you noticed when the script actually ran, this didn't quite render right, and I never could figure out exactly why, even though it is in what is called a here document. Now, we're using the cat command here, and then we are giving it a kind of file that you embed in a script called a here document. And this is the end of file token. So essentially, the cat command is going to read everything from here down to that EOF token. It's just a text file embedded in a script. It's called a here document. So the next thing that we want to do is scroll the EzeeLinux logo up the screen. We do that with a very simple while script. So we're going to read P, which is read and pause one line. So read and stop. And then when we're done doing that, we're going to do that again, and we're going to echo what is in that line. And then we're going to wait 1.1 seconds, and we're going to do it again. And it'll do that until it runs out of lines in this file right here. So once again, we are redirecting a here document into some command to make this happen. This is known as a loop, and it's a very useful and a very simple way to get things done. So we go down here to the bottom of that, and there is our end of file token. By the way, the end of file token could be anything. It could be any string of text you could come up with, as long as it doesn't appear in the file. This underscore capital EOF is just sort of standard. Once again, we clear the screen, and now we start displaying text with echo. And so we echo a line, we wait 2 seconds, then we echo the next line, we wait 3 seconds, echo the next line, wait 4 seconds, put that there, wait 3 seconds. And instead of using any kind of fancy escapes to do new lines, I just put echo in with no argument, and that just produces an empty line of text. And then I just went through and put all this together. This is just text. And then finally, when we get down here, we're calling on a program called chksys. And chksys is just a really dumb program. It's a cow that says anything you give it to say. Or you could have it be a little picture of Tux, the penguin. And that's what that part of chksys does. And then when that's done, we do this message will self-destruct, do a little countdown timer there, and then once again we have a here document into cat, boom, which we have displaying on the screen for exactly 2 seconds. And then we return the cursor to the terminal right here with tput, cnorm, clear the screen, and exit the script. That's it. So that's what opened up this particular video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be looking forward to your comments. The comments lately have been really wonderful. I read pretty much everything that you post, gang, and I learn a lot from it, and your words of encouragement are very nice, and it's nice to know that you guys are digging the videos lately. And I've been doing videos on a lot of different subjects. I took a break from Linux during June because I get to a point where I have to take a break from doing these kind of videos, just simply because the amount of comments I get. When I get into a mood where I'm thinking to myself, gee, I really need to write long, profane-laced rants about comments on YouTube, it's time to walk away and recharge. So that's exactly what I did during June, but we did do some videos about audio. So thank you once again. I will talk to you again soon. Later.